vision goggles. They do come in handy. Help if I actually got the app on my freaking tablet. If I got that friggin' up, it'd be so much easier. That could be arranged. I do not want a vehicle, thank you. It was fine next door. Damn squeaky cat. You can go there, tablet.
Boss, this contract comes from the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, also known as the MPLA. The PF at Ditati Abandoned Village has been supplied with walker gears. Your job is to eliminate them all. Destroy them, extract them, whatever you see fit. This just might get us closer to the walker gear supplier, Cypher. Good luck, boss. Go away, advert. Do not want to fucking see you today. For fuck's sake.
want to watch freaking adverts, or watch adverts on TV, not YouTube. Go away, advert. Go away.
The targets have been deployed to that outpost. Find and eliminate all of them.
Gotcha.
Rare are celebrities that can tackle more than one
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
Oh, that was
Target destroyed. Excellent work. Keep it up. Good work.
Champion is Delta feed. On full. Geen teken van die vijand. CFTF begrijpt. Eerst wachtzaam in. Reed die vijand uit. Uit.
destroy.
Roger that.
Alles geht sneller. De CFTF. Alle hierheen. Naar Paul's positie. Herhaal. Alle hierheen. Naar Paul's positie.
Fuck off, you. Right, so if you're not gonna bloody destroy by any other means, fucking do that.
Dat is geen manier om snel voor de versterkers van alle punten voor ze aan te nemen. Schop vast en hou uit met wat jij hebt. Uit!
Thank you! That's what I wanted in the first
Their
place.
anti-air radar? It wasn't one of the targets, but that's put a hole in their air surveillance. The chopper
Get
will be
off the
getting
eye
close
droid.
now. You can designate a landing zone near the outpost.
Fine, kill me.
Hey, quit kidding around.
I'm
Snake?
dead, you moron.
Snake!
The PF at Ditati Abandoned Village has been supplied with walker gears. Your job is to eliminate them all. Destroy them, extract them, whatever you see fit. Good luck, boss.
Damn fucking adverts.
Champion, dit is wie het is. 104 voor een vijandige sniper. De CFTF begrijpt. Vijf die vijand sniper in. Pas op mij. Uit!
The targets have been deployed to that outpost. Find and eliminate all of them.
box on in. Ready for it, out.
Government is still trying to get them to lose. Number 2. Hands it back to the second.
Anti-air radar. Neutralize that, and our choppers can breathe a little easier. Great. No targets remaining. Your objective's complete. Exfiltrate out of the hot zone by chopper or on land.
Deze situatie. Alle eenheden, stand bij. Hier Peter, stel de hier. In dit geval uit die blokken. Geen teken van die vijand. Over. Er is CP, begrijp. Hier is wachtzaam in. Ready for it, uit. Uit.
You destroyed their anti-air radar? It wasn't one of the targets, and that's put a hole in their air surveillance. The chopper will be able to get in close now. You can designate a landing zone near the outpost.
Er is CP, begrijp. Hier is wachtzaam in. Ready for it, uit. Uit.
Arriving shortly at LZ. This is Pequot. Have arrived at LZ. Will stand by. Gaining altitude.
No sign of the enemy. Mission complete, boss. All right, mission complete, boss. Maybe you'll actually break a sweat next time, huh?
Number 10, Pitcher, Oklahoma.
Oh,
Not only
hello,
is this place
you.
toxic, it's also
Possible.
abandoned. Some people choose to live in toxic places in other countries.
Boss,
And when something goes
we were
wrong,
right.
it's best to get
Once you'd eliminated those walker gears, a resupply call was made from Ditati to CFA headquarters. The CFA then contacted none other than Saner. That's right, the shell company that owned Mbinda oil field. So Saner was just a front for Cypher. The resupply won't be happening just yet. But we did learn that the walker gears are transported out of Nova Braga Airport. Apparently, there's a distribution network on the Savannah that links all the PF outposts. I'll have the intel team investigate this network. If Cypher is supplying PFs with walker gears, the PFs have to be offering them something in return. We follow the money trail. We might just find ourselves on Cypher's doorstep.
A whopping 2 kilometers wide and 370 meters deep. Check this thing out on Google Maps, and you can tell how completely massive this thing is. It's by far the largest asbestos mine in the world. For a long period of time, people would use this mineral to put in their walls and keep their homes from catching on fire. But recently, there's been a link with asbestos and a disease called mesothelioma, which is a lung condition. This is a toxic substance that people should avoid. So obviously, this large mine went out of business. The lake at the bottom might look like a mining bridge.
Boss, the intel team has come back with its report following its investigation into PF logistics. Cypher has to be involved with this distribution network somehow. One thing in particular caught my eye. A convoy that regularly crosses the Savannah. On paper, it's just mined resources going to the government, but the security's much too heavy. At the very least, it's worth checking out. Take a look at the mission.
The Soviet Union had the upper hand in what happened here. The communist dictator of Romania at the time ordered that all those who live here flee their homes so they could flood the Shayamana Valley with a slew of toxic chemicals. If you're even thinking about taking a swim here, you'd certainly be looking for a death wish. The polluted lake contains cyanide, lead, and mercury. Here you can see the steeple of the church barely popping out from underneath the toxic sludge. It gives you an idea how deep the lake is. Number 7. Whitby was once a farming town in Western Australia. There really wasn't a whole lot going on for the town, and they needed a way to make money. They seemingly struck it rich. They discovered blue asbestos in a cliff section. Some claim blue asbestos to be 100 times more dangerous than white asbestos. It was used in just about everything, including roads, pavements, houses, and even in school playgrounds. Here in this photo, we see 2 young children covered in blue asbestos in the town of Whitby, where they're playing around in the toxic material. Photos taken from here also show things like shoveling contests and a family participated in this photo. 5. Residents and most commonly miners of the town began to notice a severe pattern of lung sickness, making them quite concerned with where they were living. Today, the town is completely abandoned, and no one is sure if they'll ever clean up the toxic mess. Number 6. The Berkeley Pit. This giant hole in the ground in Butte, Montana, used to be a thriving copper mine, but now it's filled with extremely toxic chemicals. It's about a half mile in diameter and approximately 1,780 feet deep. About 900 feet is filled with acidic water that has a similar pH level as fresh. Industrial chemicals such as copper, arsenic, cadmium, zinc, and sulfuric acid are all found in this pit of this toxic waste.
It wasn't just Cypher. Back in the Caribbean, every eye in the world was turned on us. A private army, just a bunch of guys with guns, in possession of a nuke? Why wouldn't they be uncomfortable?
And that's why you made sure the inspection happened.
Well, I thought our best move was to prove to the UN through the IAEA that we had no nuke. Of course, I was against us having it in the first place, but that was Snake's decision.
The boss wasn't responsible.
Well, don't get me wrong, I still believed in Snake. I thought I was making the best decision for all of us, that's all. I figured we should get a third party to exonerate us before proof of the nuke did get out. And who better to do that than an organization with international authority?
So the truth is, you took it upon yourself to agree to an inspection arranged by the UN. Only the inspection was a ruse, and Cypher Strike Force XOF showed up instead.
I had no idea that would happen.
Enough bullshit!
Oh, sure, like I could have known. You know, I was just trying to prove our innocence to the world. What's wrong with that?
We're not interested in the excuses you thought up. The truth is objective.
Just see it from my point of view.
You led XOF to the control tower. They seized it, giving them complete control over the base. Moments later, they detonated C4 on the strut legs. Anyone who'd managed to survive was hunted down by the assault force and their choppers.
You can't believe I did that on purpose.
That was the end of Mother Base. But it wasn't the end for you.
How can you... Look, think about it. I lost something too. I built Zeke and it got buried underwater. I am a victim.
That raises the big questions. Why were you the only one spared? You got away without a scratch. Why did Strangelove leave the base on the eve of the inspection? You two were close.
Strangelove?
And how did you manage to build something that surpasses Zeke in every way? Because you did everything they told you. You're the only one who didn't lose a thing. That is the truth.
I was taken away against my will. Skullface forced me to do his research these past 9 years. He used me. I lost 9 years.
9 years. We all lost 9 years. It wasn't just you.
I suppose blaming me makes you feel better, does it? But
100% abandoned just yet, but it might as well be.
You're
More
not
and more
getting
villagers
anything
leave
back.
here each day, and some claim
You're
the
not a
government
victim
is
here,
forcing them
Emmerich.
to. Recently,
You're the
gold was
perpetrator.
found in this area,
I
and
didn't
villagers
know
believe they are becoming
anything.
ill from a
Nobody
toxic
can
gas
back
used
that
by the
up.
government
Yeah.
in order to build
All
the
the
gold mine
evidence
here. The city is
is at
left
the
in
bottom of
ruins,
the
and
ocean.
everyone appears to be quite ill. There used to be a
You know the
population of
hardest
about
man to
6,000
break.
people, but now
The
just a
type
few
who's
hang on to
fooling
life at this
himself.
soon-to-be toxic
That
ghost
takes
town.
time.
The statue you see here
It's
is in
easier
a
to live a
nearby town that's
convenient
been
life
abandoned,
than a
and it
painful
looks like
truth.
Kalachi will suffer the
Is that
same
the
fate.
peace you've
No one
chosen,
rides the
Doc?
swings or
I'm not
plays on the
lying.
jungle gym outside
Of
anymore.
course.
Others leave uranium
Just let
mines
me
nearby,
check one or
causing
two
strange
things.
illnesses.
On that
And
day
number
you were
one,
in the control
Bhopal
tower.
pesticide plant. We've
Lucky
all heard of the
you.
tragedies that Chernobyl
That's
has brought
how
to
you
this
got
area
out
in Ukraine in
unscathed.
previous videos.
And you
But in all
escaped on one of
actuality,
their
the
choppers.
Bhopal incident
Only
was
you.
much more
Right
devastating.
before the
A
base went
pesticide
under.
factory owned by a
They
U.S.
had me
corporation in the
blindfolded
heavily
the whole
populated area of
time.
India was
I've
found to
never
be
been
leaking
so
a large
scared.
amount of cyanide
The whole
into the
flight, I
air
thought they'd
of the
kill
city
me.
of Bhopal.
But
This caused
thinking of you kept me going.
5,295
My
people to lose their
comrades,
lives, but
all
many
the
claim
way.
the number is much
And?
higher and more like 25,000.
There was a
This
plane
poisonous
journey,
gas factory
then we
is now
traveled by
abandoned,
road.
and it's still certainly
When they
toxic.
finally took off the
To what
blindfold,
degree
I was
exactly
in
is
kind
unsure,
of a
as
warehouse
many believe there is
on
a
the
huge
floor.
amount of toxic waste underground as
Afghanistan,
well.
it was that
Some daring
research
urban
lab.
explorers decide
I
to
couldn't
visit that
believe
plant
they'd taken
and
me
came across some
halfway
dusty
around the
bottles
world.
of chemicals still unopened.
Soon enough,
The rusting chemical
he
plant
came.
itself will prove to be an
Skullface.
environmental issue if it's
He's
not
the
carefully
one who's
demolished.
really behind that mother base attack. He forced me into that research.
What kind of research?
He told me to build a bipedal walking tank for the Soviet Union. Like Peace Walker. A system that could fire an ICBM-class nuclear weapon. That's how the Sahelanthropus project got started.
Sahelanthropus.
Those AI weapons I'd made in Costa Rica were like toys by comparison. A whole world apart from reptilian four-legged crawling and that ridiculous hunched-over bipedal waddling. My design evolved to the dawn of mankind. Sahelanthropus, the first steps toward...
Police received a pretty odd
Originally,
call.
Sahelanthropus was going to be a manned weapons platform.
Around 6,000
I designed a cockpit in its head, and I planned to fill it with water as a buffering agent.
Like how Paz modified Zeke for human control.
Don't compare me to some amateur. I designed it for human control from the beginning. The problem was miniaturizing the posture control AI. You remember the reptile pod?
The AI that controlled your unmanned weapons.
Attaching it externally makes it vulnerable. So this time I wanted it beneath the armor. Meaning I had to make the AI smaller. I got it down to less than a tenth the size without any loss in computation speed. But it was still too big for the cockpit. There wasn't enough room for the pilot. If I made the head bigger, its body would have to be bigger to support it. Too big to be practical. In the end, human piloting was taken off the table.
So needless
I
to say,
tested
they
a
put on
remote
a very
control
good
system
show
too, but
for us.
there was the time lag and I wasn't satisfied with its precision either. Plus, it would be useless if the enemy jammed it. So next, I went back to trying an AI-only system.
We did this for the show.
To do that, I had the AI pods recovered from Nicaragua. This was a hybrid AI, a combination of Peace Walker's reptile and mammal pods. The only AIs that had ever successfully operated an unmanned nuclear weapon system.
Really? You'd need some help to get that working. Expert help. Did you work with someone?
I worked alone.
You did that yourself?
That's the thing. The AI didn't pan out in the end either. But I did finally get Sahelanthropus focused by folding over its upper body to lower its center of gravity. The first upright bipedal locomotive weapon system in the history of mankind. I guess technically it falls into the anthropoid ape category.
I don't see the benefit of having it stand taller.
On terrain with significant differences in elevation like Afghanistan, you need a body that's vertically adaptable. That also lets it attack from long range while using mountain ridges for cover. So, making it walk upright was the most important factor in giving it superior height capability. As the name suggests, that was the whole point of Sahelanthropus. But I was being pushed for results. Having the AI mounted externally would have been the fastest way to get it working. I just needed more data so it could maintain its balance. But
German government
Skullface
began
refused
actually
to
pulling
wait.
the war down months
He
later.
dismissed the idea of AI control and took Sahelanthropus away from me before I could finish it.
But it was walking when it came after you.
Number 8.
That's
Evil
just
Knievel.
it.
Evil Knievel was
I
an
don't
American
understand
stuntman,
how
famous for
Skullface
his
got it to
many
move
dangerous
upright,
and lucrative stunts,
without a
usually
pilot or
performed
an
on
AI.
motorcycles.
And
One day,
walking
Evil
at that
decided his
speed,
jumps
too.
weren't dangerous enough,
It's
and that he
beyond
really
anything
needed
I could have
something new to
imagined.
wow his audience of
This
fans.
is like the
One
Wright
location
brothers making it to the
caught his
moon.
eye. Southern Idaho's
I'm
Silver
just
Mountain.
as
The
clueless
jump
as
point
you
was at a
are.
gap of around
So this
1,600 feet wide,
Sahelanthropus,
over 500 foot
where is
from
it now?
the canyon.
I have
To fund
no
his stunt,
idea.
Evil hired several
All my
promoters just to
experiments
get the
took
word
place
out
at that
about the jump.
cave.
He set up a live
I've
feed
never
for
seen it
television
anywhere
channels,
else.
and even set up several
Besides,
deals with movie
it's
theaters
still
to
just
show
an
the event.
incomplete
Evil
prototype
also
at this
decided
point,
that
and nothing but a
motorcycle
paper
wasn't an
tiger.
option. So he
Even
had
if it
steam power
can
going
walk,
built.
it's far from being a viable weapons platform. It wouldn't be useful in actual battle.
Or a really entertaining fireball.
Emmerich will remain here at Mother Base for now, but not as a member of Diamond Dogs. I still don't trust him. That work for you?
Unfortunately,
Fine by me. He can't be allowed any contact with staff either. Yeah. A lot of the guys would love some payback for 9 years ago. We still need him alive, but we have to restrict his movements. He can only go where we tell him. And of course, the interrogations will continue. He worked for that skull bastard for nearly a decade. He still has more to tell us. How long are we gonna press him? If our investigation shows he really had nothing to do with the attack, we'll reconsider his place here. But I don't expect that to happen.
Everyone knew the moon landing was going to happen, but nobody was
Remember that
really
water
prepared for it
tank-shaped
to
object in
actually
Emmerich's lab in the
happen. Does that
Soviet
make
base
sense?
camp?
It's like
The
asking
thing
for
that started
promotional
talking to
work
you
when
like a
have 10
possessed
times the
answering
sales of
machine.
everyone else.
That
It's
was a
like when you
pod
bet
built
it,
for
like,
housing
you
the
never
AI
win,
used to control
right? So you
unmanned
can't really
weapons.
be sure until it
You
actually
remember,
happens.
back in '74
Anyway, on
in
July
Costa
20th,
Rica.
1969,
It was in those
Neil
machines
Armstrong
you
became
fought
the
there.
first of 12
They were
men to walk on
designated
the moon's
Pupa,
surface
Chrysalis,
and uttered
Cocoon,
his
and
famous line.
Basilisk. And each of them was fitted with an AI unit called a reptile pod. Emmerich created it. It mainly handled the machine's posture control and autonomous behavior. But the Basilisk, aka Peace Walker, also featured a second AI pod. That one was called the Mammal Pod, and it was created by Dr. Strangelove. She tried to recreate the boss's personality through the Mammal Pod, but you pulled out its memory boards. That's when it transferred its own functions to its reptile pod. Just like a human brain compensating for damage by using the remaining healthy parts. The result was a unique entity, a hybrid of the reptile and the mammal. It sank to the bottom of Lake Nicaragua with Peace Walker. But apparently they salvaged it and transported it to that lab. Don't let it deceive you, Snake. It may sound like the boss, but it has neither a personality nor a will. Like Emmerich says, it's just a machine.
To everyone's surprise, after the knowledge, guest singer Justin Timberlake stays with Jackson, performed whoever sang the song, Rock the Body. Everything was going normal, and with the lyrical sophistication of lines like that ass-shaking you do, you can be pretty sure that the dancing wasn't quite fit for Sunday. Then, as the song reached its final line of "Because I Got a Head Naked" by the end of the song, Timberlake grabbed that and ripped off part of Janet Jackson's song, revealing her right breast for a whopping 0.8 of a second. Apparently, the ripping was intentional and was supposed to reveal her lace bra, but Timberlake accidentally ripped off her bra as well, dubbing the event a wardrobe malfunction. The event was being streamed live to 143 million viewers, and Janet Jackson quickly broke multiple world records for most searched news item, event, and person. Evo also reported that they profited over $6 million in new subscriptions from the event. Unfortunately, unless you reported it or personally knew someone who did, it was pretty hard to see it, because at the time, there was no convenient online video sharing websites. Luckily for us, YouTube co-founder Joanne Green had missed the broadcast, and his inability to watch the fake wardrobe malfunction gave him the idea for YouTube, a place to share videos online. Number 5. The 1992 Los Angeles riots. The Los Angeles riots referred to around 6 days of rioting that occurred in late April 1992 in, you guessed it, Los Angeles, California. Also called the Los Angeles Uprising, or Los Angeles
You
Civil
called that
Unrest,
thing
and the Los Angeles
Sahelanthropus.
riots.
Where does the name come from?
Well, several years ago, an excavation team discovered a hominid skull in the Sahel region.
A year before the riots
Central
on
Africa, the Southern Sahara.
brutally beat
Cypher gave the specimen the name Sahelanthropus, Man of Sahel.
Civil unrest grew
And then they covered the whole thing up.
Why?
A year later, on
They probably wanted to monopolize information about human evolution to have a head start in their genetic research. At least, until they had an idea of what they'd found.
It was that big of a discovery, huh?
Sahelanthropus was a gracile hominid, estimated to have lived about 7 million years ago. What's significant about it is how its skull's foramen magnum faces down. In other words, its spinal column supported its head from underneath.
It stood upright.
Right. Which would mean Sahelanthropus walked upright 3 million years before Australopithecus, making it the world's oldest human species.
Walking upright. I get it. Hence the name Sahelanthropus for your machine.
Walking upright was the decisive difference between our ancestors and other anthropoids. Our brains could get heavier once they were supported by the spinal column. That led to the use of tools and the development of complex communication through language.
Oh, that's
Only man is capable of this.
To be honest,
My
I
creation
think
will be
I'm
the
gonna have
progenitor
to have...
of all bipedal weapon platforms.
And you did this for Cypher.
No, not at all. Sahelanthropus is the best proof that I never betrayed you guys.
What do you mean?
The reconstructed Sahelanthropus skull looked exactly like the skull we used as our logo 9 years ago in the Caribbean.
An army without a nation. Outside the world order.
The design was based on Pangaea, the supercontinent that existed 250 million years ago, right?
Yeah. When the world was a single landmass. That concept's at the source of our strength.
I felt the same way about Sahelanthropus. Sure, I was forced to build it under their orders, but I always wanted to put its technology back in our hands someday. That's the reason I incorporated the old insignia into Sahelanthropus' name. Don't you see? That's how much I was thinking about you guys.
Oh, I see, all right. I see someone desperate to cover his ass. You can say whatever you want after the fact. But that skull also symbolizes somebody else. Skullface.
Snake, you finally came. Just don't record this, okay?
Not recording anything. What's this about?
What I'm about to say stays between you and me. It's about the weapon to surpass Metal Gear. You know a researcher by the name of Clark? He works in the biotech industry. Real advanced stuff. His area is bioengineering. But lately, he's also gotten into genetic research.
Never heard of him.
Well then, what do you know about cloning?
I think I've heard enough.
Hold on, this is important. Cloning lets you create a genetic copy of an organism. You take the nucleus of one of its cells, and you swap it with the nucleus of an unfertilized egg from another member of the same species. They started out working with plants, but since then they've had success with other organisms right now. Corporations, universities, research groups. There's no shortage of scientists out to get famous and patent their work, with morality taking a back seat.
Isn't that a little outside your field?
It's got nothing to do with my research. But I thought it might be of interest to you. Cloning, and Dr. Clark, I mean.
Go on.
Now, this is really highly classified stuff, but I've heard that an American biotech company has successfully cloned a human being. What's more, it happened over 10 years ago, and the researcher behind it was Dr. Clark. You've really never heard of him?
I don't meet many doctors.
This Dr. Clark is a complete ghost, even to others in his field. His age, where he comes from, that might not be his real name. And I can't even say for sure he's a he. Clark's employer, ATGC, its company motto is embracing your hopes, preserving talent.
What does this have to do with me?
Cypher. Dr. Clark works for ATGC. And they have connections to DARPA. Cypher couldn't function without the communications network DARPA's built. Meaning, Cypher has to be a part of the Pentagon. Or at least, the two are joined at the hip. DARPA is a driving force behind human cloning. It's a pretty high priority project for them. And this Dr. Clark, some say he's a pivotal player in Cypher. But that's not all. Every cell nucleus in an organism contains the genetic information for that organism. Think of it as a blueprint for life. Clark appears to be working on how to decode this information and rearrange it at will. If you could do that, it would mean being able to custom design human beings for specific purposes. Can you believe that? Suppose for a moment that this is all fact. A man of your talents, if your genetic information died with you, that would be a terrible loss for mankind. But what if mankind could preserve you for future generations by cloning you?
All right, enough. I get the idea.
Look, I know it's inductive reasoning, but this weapon to surpass Metal Gear they're developing in Africa, I believe it's something that uses this new technology. Speaking as a fellow scientist, it chills me to the bone.
That's rich coming from you.
If genes serve as our blueprint, then I wonder if they include an impulse that drives us to tweak the design. Can you imagine that? Genes encoded with information that wants its children to decode it. Is life itself putting the direction of our next evolution in the hands of scientists? I guess it would take some real arrogance to believe that. And yet, it could be what Cypher's after.
I think you're barking up the wrong tree. But that was an interesting story. It'd make a good movie.
You have to believe me.
Where'd you hear all this anyway?
Where? I just overheard it in bits and pieces while I was forced to do that research for them.
Right.
Wait a minute. Look, I want to help you. I want to be of service here. I'm risking my life with this.
Is that so? Maybe it's time we brought someone else into the conversation.
No, not him. Not Ocelot. You can't do this.
Ever since the attack on your unit 9 years ago, the name Big Boss has become known the world over. What do you mean? Those of your men who survived traveled far and wide. They fought throughout the world. In fact, they're part of the reason we have all these PFs now. Every one of them suffered their own phantom pain from losing you. Talking about you wherever they went helped to heal their wounds. Your actions and words, your legend, has been told on every battlefield they've set foot on. Obviously, as the tales have spread, the truth's been distorted, painted over. Big Boss sacrificed himself to show us the threat that Cypher poses. He sounded a warning, so it goes. A warning? Too much power destroys the hands that hold it. Apparently, you chose to be a living example of that. I never said any of that. The moment any truth is passed on, it starts turning into fiction. The problem is, fiction inspires people more than facts. To the world, you're now the legendary mercenary Big Boss. The lessons you've taught the PFs are the reason they're so widespread. They're the reason they've survived. And you know what they all aspire to? To one day go nuclear, just like you did, and stand up to Cypher. Of all the stupid things you could do, they'll never understand what you really wanted. Heroes are misunderstood. It takes a man of the same caliber to understand what drives them. Bottom line is, these guys want to be like their hero, Big Boss. And deep down, they all have their eyes on nuclear weapons. They say that a nuke is the only means of standing against Cypher. But these days, it's becoming little more than a slogan to rally the troops and survive in a cutthroat business.
Currently, there are 3 major PFs who've expanded into Central Africa. CFA, Rogue Coyote, and Zero Risk Security. HEC's investigations have shown there's almost no overlap between their areas of operation. It's not so much a turf war, more like they have a gentleman's agreement. If you do cross paths with them,
You probably won't have to face more than one at a time. Still, don't expect a walk in the park. The CFA, Contract Forces of Africa. These guys are a major player. Their head office is in Pretoria, South Africa. That's also where the South African Defense Force is headquartered. We think the two are closely connected. An HEC investigation revealed that most of the CFA's operators are former SADF soldiers. South Africa has been locked in struggles with neighboring regimes for years. That means constant action. And we know better than anyone that's the best kind of training. A company drawing its recruits from hardened military vets. You can bet they know how to handle themselves. Do not underestimate them. Within the CFA is a company of soldiers made up mainly of locally hired operators. They speak Afrikaans to communicate with personnel from the CFA. But if you notice any speaking the local language, that's them. Though hired from the local population, they were originally part of a paramilitary group, so they'll have plenty of combat experience. And unlike their days shooting junkyard rifles out of beat-up pickup trucks, the CFA now supplies them with the latest gear from the West. On top of that, they've been combat trained by the South African Army. All that adds up to a much stronger fighting force. Border region. The east bank of the Munene River in particular. It's a microcosm of a problem that stretches all across Africa. There's a civil war going on in Angola, fought between the government MPLA and the Western-backed UNITA. Zaire is still a dictatorship under President Mobutu, but numerous uprisings have broken out in its remote regions. With all the trouble elsewhere keeping their hands full, neither government has control over their side of the border. They depend on militias and PFs, as do the rebels. Government forces, guerrillas, militants, groups of all shapes and sizes hawk whatever resources they can to hire PFs. Conflict brings
Historians have speculated several plausible theories as to the origin of the mysterious children, whose appearance and subsequent life on the English was documented by multiple authors. However, the truth remains a mystery. 14. Perseus, the Manhattan Project's Soviet spy. There is no photograph of this guy because he was such a successful spy that his identity was never discovered. He was a scientist who infiltrated the US government's Manhattan Project from 1943 to 1946. It was a top-secret research endeavor to unlock the secrets of bringing down fiery atomic destruction on America's enemy. The only thing known about this guy is that his codename was Perseus, and he definitely had first-hand access.
Boss, I need to talk to you about this. Quiet.
He was so deep undercover.
Can you meet me at her cell here on the base? Whenever's fine.
No clue he even existed until XKGB revealed it in 1991. They never did find out which scientist he was though. 13. The Woman of the Seine. You know her in In 1880 Paris, the body of a young woman was found floating in the Seine River. Police fished her out of the water and sent her to the coroner, who apparently fell in love with her face. He took her to a molder and had a plaster cast of her face created. Apparently he was not the only one to be smitten by her corpse likeness, since before he picked up his destiny, several other customers in the molder shop took notice and requested their autograph. It soon became a raging trend throughout France to the only cast of Joe's face, anomalous because they never did find out who she was. A Norwegian toy maker was hired to create the first CPR model in 1960. He decided to revive this trend and cast the dummy's face with her face. So if you've taken a CPR class, you've joined the historic fandom of this brown mystery girl and given her mouth to mouth. The ultimate in ironic utility. Why did anyone think this was a great idea?
The last staff member who tried to dress her, breathing through tubes. Other than that, she's completely cooperative. She understands English. She never speaks, sweats, or breathes. What? Well, not with lungs, at least. She breathes through her skin. Clothing would suffocate.
Ironic utility. Why did anyone think this was a great idea?
Showers are okay.
12.
She can't be submerged.
On April 1st, 1990, a woman stepped onto a freeway in Huntington Beach, California. She was struck by not one, but two vehicles. She was skilled instantly. She carried no identification, but did have a hotel room key and wore a ring made of human hair.
She's okay?
Many witnesses stepped forward in
She's
response to
okay.
media coverage of the
She just can't move when she's taking in water.
speculation or anecdotes connected with her, but no conclusive information came to light. 25 years later, the case remains open, though she does have her own Facebook. 11.
See that?
The Poe toaster. In
hasn't eaten a
1949,
thing since she
centuries
got
after
here.
the death of Edgar Allan Poe,
She doesn't eat either?
French began the tradition of toasting Poe's grave. He does this very early in the morning
Photosynthesis.
every year on January 19th, the
Photosynthesis.
anniversary of Poe's birth. Man carries a silver-tipped cane.
That's the verdict from the medical staff. No,
3 red
jury's
roses
still out.
and half a bottle of
It's the
cognac
only
with
explanation
raisins.
for what we've
It is
seen.
presumed that since the tradition has
The Gru
continued
had a
for
man
7
with that
decades,
ability
this
in
is
its
actually
Cobra
2
unit.
men in succession carrying it out.
We don't
Poe is
think
definitely
she's
appreciated.
contagious, but some of the
Yes,
staff
pirate biographer Captain
can't
Charles
stomach her.
Johnson. This
It's starting to affect
self-proclaimed
morale.
daily life of pirates in the 1700s and 1800s has become the go-to.
Can't you send her on a mission?
By
herself?
The author
No.
claims to be a pirate captain.
But as you
himself,
know, she
and
does
pretty much
have
dares
skill.
anyone to call him a liar.
Why not
There
take
was
her out on one of
no
your
such
missions?
known person as pirate captain
Seems so
Charles
like
Johnson.
him.
In addition, illiteracy was pretty much a
course,
prerequisite for
only
being a
if you think
pirate
she'll
in
be
that
useful.
time and place. Fake
Next
biography
time you go out,
is
keep her in mind.
The various theories have been formed about the author's veracity and true identity. 9. Gil Perez, teleporter extraordinaire. Gil Perez was a soldier and guard in the Filipino Guardia Civil in the 16th century. Reports state that he leaned against the wall while on duty and closed his eyes
Shut
for a
up,
moment.
Dee Dee.
When he opened them, he was in a completely unfamiliar place. At a loss about what to do, he continued performing his guard duty despite being completely ignorant of what he was at that point actually guarding. Finally, someone asked him what the hell he was doing. He explained that he had no idea how he ended up in Mexico City and told them the governor in Manila had been assassinated. A ship arrived from Manila, Philippines, and confirmed Perez's story about the governor's death, as well as identifying him positively. They also confirmed that Perez had been seen in Manila on the 23rd, the day before he showed up mysteriously in Mexico under baffling circumstances. Harry Potter's Platform 9 reported obviously had a parallel to the 16th century Manila. It's the only explanation. 8. The Man in the Iron Mask. Popularized by Leonardo DiCaprio's portrayal in the 1998 movie by the same title, the actual
Boss,
historical Man in
dispatch
the
me
Iron
on my
Mask
next
remains a
mission.
mystery. During the reign of French King Louis XIV, an anonymous prisoner spent decades confined to the Bastille and other French prisons not quite so notorious. No one knew who he was or why he was in prison. No one even knew what he looked like, since he was never permitted to show his face and was masked at all times. 7. Caspar Hauser, Captive Prince. A teenage boy appeared on the streets of Nuremberg, Germany on May 28, 1828. He was extremely awkward and carried a letter addressed to the captain of the cavalry of the 4th Squadron, 6th Regiment. It was written by a man who claimed to have been given custody of the boy as an infant in October of 1812.
Roger.
They told the captain the boy was with the regiment.
This is P-Quad. Arriving shortly at LZ.
What if the nation does not rule out the possibility, but the boy's true origins died with him. December 7, 1832. 6.
This is P-Quad. On station at LZ. Gaining altitude.
The man who would be dubbed Stalin's personal wizard was born September 1st, 1899, outside Warsaw, Poland.
Looks like you've gotten used to working with quiet. I don't see a problem with
Hey,
giving your son
I
weapons.
got
I've
quiet.
already talked it over with the R&D team.
Russia. Then he was reportedly forced by Stalin to rob a bank using nothing but a blank piece of paper and his psychic powers. When he accomplished this successfully, he was employed thereafter to teach KGB recruits. 3. Arnold Paula, the new Dracula. The story of Arnold Powler is one of very few vampire stories that have been sufficiently documented to lend it historical validity. He resigned from the military against his superior's wishes after being stationed in Greece, where he claimed he was visited by a reverend or a
Being a scout sniper, there are two tasks you can give quiet. The first is to infiltrate an outpost ahead of you and scout out the enemy's positions. The second is to send her to a sniping position and have her cover your infiltration. The kind of sniper support she'll provide will depend on the weapon you give her. Of course, this is all assuming she's willing to follow orders.
Stake him through the heart, the death stop. 2. Falconelli. Late 19th century French alchemist Falconelli is a figure of profound mystery. The name itself is believed to be an alias. One of his students is reported to have turned lead into gold, the all-time ultimate goal of alchemy students for centuries. He is known through his writing, and from that is presumed to have been well educated and married, though even these ideas are unverified. 1. The Isdal woman. In 1970, a group of hikers outside Bergen, Norway discovered the charred, naked corpse of a woman whose identity only became more mysterious as the investigation into her extremely bizarre death proceeded. The actual scene of the crime was almost ostentatiously overdone, as if trying to scream melodrama. Littered around the corpse were bottles of gasoline and alcohol, along with a badly burned passport and enough sleeping pills to send a stampeding rhinoceros into hibernation. The mystery only grew, since the woman herself was impossible to identify. Her fingerprints had been sanded away, and her dental work yielded nothing beyond a vague indication of South America. 2 of her suitcases were found, but failed